For a few summers before college, I volunteered part-time at a cancer hospital. I showed patients where their appointments were, I got them food, I kept them company, and heard their stories. As I learned more about carcinogens in college classes, I wondered how many of the patients that I'd seen never would have been sick in the first place in a less polluted world. I wanted to do something about it. When I found out that I would get a chance to work for the Environmental Defense Fund's Global Clean Air Initiative this summer, working for a less polluted world through clean air communication, it was a dream come true. This summer, I worked with and learned from colleagues across the United States and the world, writing social media posts, fact sheets, web copy, and blog posts across all of these different types of media and places and air pollution topics. I noticed that there were some trade-offs that we were consistently balancing in our work. We wanted to show people the effect that air pollution had on them and their community, while also keeping these local issues in the global context of air pollution trends at large. We wanted to make people feel empowered and hopeful that they individually could make a difference, while also keeping them informed about real risks of air pollution as we discovered new ones. We wanted to maintain continuous messaging, kind of have a coherent story that we were telling, while also not leaving people with issue fatigue tuning out. This presentation is going to be about how I worked to address some of these trade-offs in my communications work this summer. Risk and hope. According to the World Health Organization, the vast majority of the world's population breathes air that is more polluted than is safe. That air includes carcinogens and greenhouse gases, particulates. All of these things have a real impact on our health. Air pollution increases risk of cancer, of respiratory illness, and of health problems across the lifespan. And yet, there is still so much reason for optimism. The Environmental Defense Fund is working with pilot cities from Oakland, California to Guangzhou, China, working to better monitor and understand air pollution sources so that local leadership can find ways of addressing air pollution more effectively. Electric cars, trucks, and buses are paving the way for a cleaner future for transportation. Engineers, policymakers, and advocates are hard at work all over the world addressing air pollution. I worried that if people felt air pollution was hopeless because they were overwhelmed with too much negative information at once, that they wouldn't work to try to address air pollution because they didn't think that they could. To try to combat any potential fatalism, I just kept an eye out for positive news about air pollution whenever I could find it, while keeping it accurate. So when policymakers had a big win, or engineers came up with a cool new solution, or advocates had a wonderful campaign going, whenever there was something positive and real that we could amplify, we did. And at the same time, we worked to inform people about new risks from air pollution as we found them. We wanted to combine real, accurate information, keeping people informed, while also leaving them hopeful. One of my favorite parts of that work was contributing to a blog post series about air pollution advocates and people working to fight this issue. I hoped that if people saw the impact that other people were making on this vital issue, that they would feel that they could also make a difference. Localization and global context. You might think that the global nature of air pollution would make people more willing to do something about it, but the sheer scale of the issue can actually be a communications challenge. Air pollution can feel so large and still sometimes so far away that people aren't sure whether they can really make a difference or whether it affects them. One of the ways we tried to address this at the EDF Global Clean Air Initiative is by showing people regional and city-specific air pollution problems and air pollution-related solutions. This way, people could see the issues in their own backyard. At the same time, we wanted to maintain global context. Air pollution doesn't respect borders, as we saw this summer when air pollution from wildfires on the West Coast blew across the whole country. Air pollution in one area may soon become air pollution somewhere else, and building support across communities is essential. To help people maintain that global context, we also included global statistics or national statistics about clean air impacts, even when looking at localized case studies, so that people could see the larger whole that this part was part of. Individual empowerment and systems change. So many of the decisions that influence how much pollution is in the air aren't made by you and me, individual citizens, consumers, community members. Lawmakers and politicians decide what regulations will be passed and how much these regulations will be enforced. Corporate leadership decides whether their companies will just toe the line on climate and air regulations, go above and beyond, or try to skirt new laws altogether. And yet, the public, through their collective voice, has the power to pressure corporate and public sector leadership to make real positive changes. I wanted to make people feel empowered to advocate for change while also not putting the whole burden of systems change on any one individual person's shoulders. At the same time, air pollution is a problem right now, and people needed and still do need information about how to keep themselves and their families and their communities as safe as possible from air pollution's current risks. As wildfire smoke rolled across the country this summer, that personal information advice ended up including telling people what kinds of masks would protect them on a bad air day, and where to look for air pollution levels, and what kind of air filters to potentially buy for their homes. So it really just came down to balancing information about long-term system change approaches, short-term health advice, and just keeping everything in perspective. Continuity and change. Air pollution is a problem day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It can be really hard to keep people engaged when the smog just feels endless, and solutions can at times feel slow-moving. That's where a variety of perspectives can be really, really helpful. Researchers and advocates and engineers and policymakers, all of them have different perspectives on what can be done about air pollution and what they in their own field or organization are doing about it. They're coming up with new research about where it's coming from and what it does, and how we can work across society to fix it at the technological level, at the policy level, at the business level, and everywhere in between. This way, we can maintain some variety, keep people engaged, while also having a continuous, coherent message about air pollution. Maintaining a balance between variety and continuity was a challenge we worked throughout the summer. I would like to end by just thanking everybody that I learned from this summer and in this fellowship. I learned so much from my classmates, from Professor Chambliss, from my supervisor Kevin at the Environmental Defense Fund, and from all of my colleagues. While the World Health Organization does tell us that air pollution is a health risk in just such a wide variety of ways across the lifespan, I am hopeful about the future of both fighting air pollution and more effective air pollution communication. I think we can keep finding new ways to balance all these trade-offs, to synthesize new information about air pollution for the public. We are writing our way through the smog until someday we'll all breathe clean air.